عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردن الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محذرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها هبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إنا أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننقصه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو خلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. فاتحة.
محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخزع لها كل شيء وظل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاع له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت كل عصام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك واستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من كربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانيا وفيه جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائه ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي وتجرعت بجحلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من فاده من البلاء أكلته وكم من إثار وقيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أحلا له نشرته. اللهم أذم بلائي وأفرت بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني النفي بعد أعمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء أملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تواجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور يتوفى. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك. أسأله كشف ذري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي، أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء. فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك، وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تكسيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا، مستغفرا منيبا، مكرا مذنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا من مكان مني، ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري، وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري، وارحم شدة الضر، وفكني من شدي وثاكي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، وركة جلدي ودكة عزمي. يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، حبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي. أتراك معذبي من نارك بعد توحيدك، وبعد من زوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك، ولهج به لساني من ذكرك، واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت، أو تبعد من أدنيت، أو تشرد من آويت، أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي، أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا، وبشكرك مادحا، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت لأوتان تعبدك طائعا، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا. ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها، وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، ألا أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه، قليل مكثوح، يسير بقاؤه، قصير مدته. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أزج وأبكي ليليم العذاب وشدته، أم لطول البلاء ومدته، فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فحبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وحبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك. أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك، فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأزجن إليك بين أحل حازجيج العاملين، ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولا بكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين. يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين، أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته، وذاك طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أتباكها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يزج إليك زجيجا مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يهركه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أتباكها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتكه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك، ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهديك، وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك، أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا، وتتولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها، وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تحبلي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته، وكل ذنب أذنبته، وكل قبيح أسررته، وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته، أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتمين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزل أو إحسان تفضل أو بر تنشر أو رزق تبسط أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناسيتي، يا ليمان بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا، وبخدمتك موصولا، وأعمالي عندك مقبولا، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه مؤولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، قوي على خدمتك جواره، واشدد على العزيمة جوانه، وحبلي الجد في خشيتك، والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرها إليك في ميادين السابقين، وأسري إليك في المبادرين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة شهادة الموقنين واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد، ومن كادني فكيد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخسهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك، واعتف علي بمجدك، وحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، واقلني أثرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء، وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وسلاحه البكاء. يا سابغ النعم، يا دافع النقام، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وفل بما أنت أحلو. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight is the 1-year anniversary of Marhum Shabani Ali Jafar. Please recite Surah Fatiha for Shabani uncle, as well as all the names displaying on the screens, and for all Marhumin, please. Surah Al-Barakat al-Fatiha. Dua Shafaz requested for all Marid, please. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mudhtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mudhtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mudhtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. New Hujjah calendars for the year 2024 are available at either desk for £1. On Sunday, the Fajr program will start at 7 a.m. And lastly, brothers, before we begin the majlis, can I request you to stand up and come as close to the front as possible? At the same time, can we please welcome Hyderi Rehan Naqvi with the last salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن هذه أمتكم أمة واحدة وأنا ربكم فاعبدون. Please recite as-salawat. Respected listeners, my dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you know what is considered to be the most successful export of the West? Any idea? I hear arms, ideology, democracy, that is something interesting. Hollywood, that is also something very interesting. Well, according to the scholars of political science, the most successful export of the West is nation state. Nation state. And you see, we live in a world that is considered to be a society of nation states in international relations. A society of nation states. There are so many countries around the world, 190 or so, and each and every one of them is a nation state with its well-defined territory, its population, its government, its state, its passport, its national flag, its national anthem, and its national football team. Nation state. And we are so much used to it that we cannot even imagine living in a world that does not have nation states. You belong to one or several nation states, considering that you have one or multiple citizenships. And I belong to one nation state when it comes to my citizenship, but I may also think that I belong to another nation state that I have my origins in. Regardless of that, nation state is what we are so much used to that we can't even imagine living without it. But it is a very new concept. Very new. The world was not like this 150, 200 years ago or so. There were no nation states. Such a new idea, and we are so much used to it. And at the same time, we have another concept, another idea that we cherish, that we care about. And that is not new. That is very old as the religion of Islam. And that is the concept of Ummah. Ummah. It's not new, it's old. And we all might have different perceptions of Ummah. We might have different ideas about what Ummah is and what is my place in the Ummah. But the reality is that nation state on one hand and ummah on the other do not always go hand in hand. Do not always go hand in hand. And this needs to be unfolded and explained, which I'm going to do in this lecture. As you all know, that the topic of this two-part series of lectures is the Ummah in the era of nation states, challenges and our responsibilities. And I have carefully selected this topic in consultation with the organizers of Hyderi Islamic Center, and I must say that I'm deeply honored to be invited to speak from this blessed pulpit once again. And I've been looking forward to this. So this is what I'm going to talk about in these two lectures, and inshallah you're going to find it useful. And before we can really delve into the challenges and our responsibilities when it comes to the Ummah and the era of nation states, there are a couple of questions that need to be answered. A couple of questions. And I'm going to answer some of those questions in this first lecture. The second lecture, which is going to be more interactive, and it is going to end with a Q&A session next Thursday, inshallah, will solely focus on the challenges and our responsibilities. But before that, the prelude to that is going to be today. It is very important to understand certain concepts and answer certain questions. So what I'm going to do during the next 40 minutes or so is to try and answer the following questions. First of all, what is a nation state? What is the history of nation state? It is very important to understand that. How did it come to be, this world that we live in today? Nation state first. After that, what is Ummah? What is the meaning of Ummah? The concept of Ummah. How do we perceive it? How do we see it? And has the Ummah or the concept of Ummah that we have in our minds been always like this since the very beginning of Islam, or no? Maybe the word Ummah was used in different contexts before. Is there one kind of Ummah, or there can be different kinds of Ummah? This is what I'll discuss. After that, can the nation state and the Ummah go hand in hand? As I said earlier, often they do not go hand in hand. Are the two foes or friends? Are the two mutually exclusive? This is very important to understand. This is what I'll discuss. And then briefly, what is our place in the Ummah? And get into the challenges faced by Muslims. And focus today on Shia Muslims and our place in the Ummah. And in doing so, look at some of the challenges. And then I'll take a brief and quick look at the early Islamic history and talk about the root cause of all the challenges that the Ummah has today. And not only the Ummah, but the whole humanity has today. What is the root cause of that? And then end this lecture with a brief eulogy, inshallah. And if you pay attention, inshallah, you're going to find this lecture useful and hopefully also learn a thing or two that is going to help you deal with some of the dilemmas that you might be facing. But before I proceed, wherever you are, you who are blessed to be present here and those who are blessed to be watching this program online, from the bottom of your heart, please recite as-salawat. So, first of all, nation state. What's the history of nation state? You see, as I said, nation state emerged from the West. Europe, to be precise. It started here. Until 1500 or so, the year 1500, early modern period is starting, most people lived in their villages. They never got out of their village. They lived in their village, they were born there, they worked in the fields, they died there. And they did not care about the world outside their village. There was no central government. There was only a lord or a duke that these villagers paid tithe to. 10% of their wealth or savings, they paid to that duke or lord. Like a Maharaja or Raja in the Indian subcontinent. They also had those Maharajas to whom the villagers paid their taxes. No concept of nation, no concept of one nation, nationalism, nothing. But then gradually, around 1600 or so, some monarchs, some rulers, some leaders, they started to unite people, and they started to have control over a vast territory, and they brought all the people together, united the territory, united the people, and gave them the identity of a nation. I'm going very quickly because this lecture is not about the history of political science and the history of nationalism, so I'm skipping many steps and going very quickly. So they united people. For example, Napoleon gave the French identity to the people of France. He united that country. For example, Spain was the first of one of the first ones, and also the Dutch, the Spanish. These were the places where some monarch, some leader got the people together, had a territory united, people united, and told them, you are Dutch, you are French, you are Spanish, for example, you are German, so on and so forth. I'm taking it going very quickly and simply. There are many nuances and details that I'm skipping. This is what happened. And that is when still nation states haven't emerged yet, as we see them today. But then this identity of nation started to emerge in Europe, that we belong to one nation. And what is a nation? A nation is a group of people who have a common language, common ethnicity, and common culture. One of the three. Interestingly, religion is not the common denominator in Europe, because there were several countries with Christianity as religion, but a different national identity, as we see today as well. So this is what happened. And then it continued until 1850 or so, in the 19th century, that the concept of nation state properly took shape and form, and really nation states as countries with their defined territories, their state, their government, they emerged in Europe. Nation states. Not exactly like we have today, because the boundaries and territories keep changing, but those nation states emerged. And this happened as a result of industrial revolution, when many people started moving from their villages to cities to work in the factories, and then they had to deal with people from different parts that they did not know. At that moment, also, the mass media came, printing press came, literature, arts, and literacy increased. And then the state used that to give that identity to people. Poets, writers, they gave this notion of national identity. Be proud of your identity. You are a nation. German, French, Spanish, Dutch, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, English, this, that. Now, at the same time, the advent of democracy and republics, they came, and then the state, the government started to represent the people. That was also very important for a modern nation state. Now, the irony is that when democracy was taking roots in Europe and nation states had emerged, some of those nation states that had democracy or constitutional democracy back home, they started to colonize other parts of the world. Other parts of the world, including the Muslim world. India was occupied, and many Muslim countries in Africa were occupied. Middle East, they were occupied. But in Middle East, there was something very interesting that happened. There was this Turkish Ottoman Empire that existed. At that moment, there were three main kingdoms or empires of Muslims. First, the Mughals, in India. Then the Ottoman Empire, that was the largest Muslim empire or caliphate that had the Middle East, parts of Africa, and so on and so forth. And then the third one was the Qajars in Iran. So I'm talking about the late 19th century and early 20th century. Pay very good attention. This is very important to understand our challenges and responsibilities in this world. So then the Ottomans were defeated in the First World War. And then what happened? The Mughals were defeated already. 1857, the British took control of the whole of India. All right? Now the Ottomans, they were defeated early 20th century. Also, many countries emerged out of the Ottoman Empire, the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire. And as a result of that, there were many countries that were given an identity. You are Lebanese, you are Syrian, you are Iraqi, you are this, you are that. That were all under the Ottoman Empire at that time. They did have their own identity, belonging to a certain area, this and that, but they did not have the concept of nation state, having a nation state of their own. They got it from the powers that had occupied them. And the same happened in India. The same thing happened in India. When the Indian movement for freedom started, what did they want? They wanted to make a nation state. They wanted to make a nation state. They did not want the Mughals back. They did not want monarchy back. They wanted to have a nation state with its own territory, its own flag, its own passport, and its own notion of nationalism. We are Indian national. But out of that came not one, but two countries. India, the original one, and the other one, Pakistan. Pakistan was founded in the name of Islam. As I said, until then, religion was not the common denominator for establishing a nation state. It was the language, it was the culture, it was the ethnicity. It was for the very first time in history that a nation state was founded in the name of religion. For the very first time in the history of mankind. And after that, Israel was founded also in the name of ideology or religion. But first, Pakistan. But the pity is that that country could not survive even 25 years in the name of religion. And Bangladesh separated, not in the name of religion, but in the name of language and ethnicity. And they have a very strong identity, very strong notion of nationhood, while Pakistanis until today do not have that sort of strong identity because it had only religion. Pay very good attention. Bengalis today, they say we are Bangladesh. They have a very strong sense of identity. Pakistanis, among all the Muslim countries, are still looking for an identity. Still looking for an identity because apparently religion is not a force strong enough to give sound basis for a nation state. You can disagree with me, but this appears to be so. Anyway, so this was how nation states. Anyway, now everyone has their own flag. Everyone has their own passport. Everyone has their own favorite national football team, cricket team, this and that. We are proud to be Iranian. We are proud to be Iraqi. We are proud to be Syrian. We are proud to be Afghan. We are proud to be Pakistani. We are proud to be this. We are proud to be that. On top of that, we have something mass that is called the emigration of Muslim communities from their countries of origin to the countries of the West. Now, of course, many people, especially the Khoja brothers and sisters, their ancestors moved already pre-partition to parts of Africa and other countries, and then from there they moved to Europe and America, and so on and so forth, and they adopted a bit of a cosmopolitan lifestyle. But still, I'm still learning about different communities. They still have a sense of belonging maybe to the countries of their origin and their own language and their identity. But this is a very interesting thing, which is new, that you belong to a nation state or a group of nation or group of people, and then you move to another nation state and you assume its citizenship. You become a British citizen, you become American citizen, you become Canadian citizen. You are a citizen of that nation state while you still have associations and belongings to the nation state of your parents or the people of your ancestors. So just giving the overview of the overall situation. Anyway, we are Muslims, alhamdulillah. We live in this world. No matter where we live, no matter what kind of nation state we live in, we still care about the Ummah. We care about the Ummah. Now, entering the second part. Keep this, what I've discussed so far about nation state, keep it in mind. I'll get back to the nation state. But first, Ummah. What is Ummah? We hear Ummah. We belong to the Ummah. Ummate Muslimah. Ummah Muslimah. For example, what does the word Ummah mean? Let's get to the basics first. Ummah. In the Quran, the word Ummah appears for more than 60 times in different contexts. Different contexts. Sometimes as a singular, sometimes as ummam, as plural. And when we look at different lexicons or different classical or modern works of Quranic exegesis, we come to know that the word ummah itself, if we summarize all different points of view, ummah itself means a group of people who live in one geographical area or live in one era or have one faith. It's a very simple definition of Ummah. There can be different nuances and details and contexts, but if we summarize the different points of view, this is the definition. A group of people who either live in one geographical area, or they live in one particular time or era, or they have a common belief or faith. And then there is another element that defines Ummah that we find in different exegesis of the Quran and different Islamic scholarship, and that is Ummah is a group of people that has a common goal. Common goal. That is Ummah. That is Ummah. The definition of it, the basic definition, the theoretical, when it comes to the istilah, the term Ummah. Now, when we look at the Quran, look at the Hadith, what do we learn about Ummah? Does Ummah only mean Muslims? Does it exclude all other people? As I said, I was going to answer the question, do we belong to one Ummah or several Ummahs? Can there be several Ummahs? Pay very good attention. Can there be several Ummahs? So let's look at the early Islamic history. Mithaq Medina. You have heard about Mithaq Medina, the Treaty of Medina. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, made that treaty, and that included different parties. And you know which parties it included? Quraysh, the Muhajir people who had emigrated from Mecca to Medina, Ansar, the people of Medina, and the Jews. And the Jews of Medina. Now, when we look at the text of that treaty, it uses a very interesting phrase. وَأَنَ يَهُودْ بَنِي عَوْفْ أُمَّةٌ مَعَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. It says, and the Jews of Bani Auf, they are Ummah alongside the believers. They're Ummah alongside the believers. لِلْيَهُودْ دِينُهُمْ وَلِلْمُسْلِمِينَ دِينُهُمْ. Then it says, for the Jews, it's their religion, and for the Muslims, it's their religion. And one interpretation of this text is that the Holy Prophet considered Jews of Medina to also be part of that Ummah. This is one point of view. A point of view that Shaykh Muhammad Shamsuddin believed in and propagated. Who was Shaykh Muhammad Shamsuddin? He was the head of Supreme Shia Council of Lebanon after Imam Musa Sadr. And he believed that Ummah can have two meanings. One is Ummah Diniyah and Ummah Siyasiyah. And he said that Ummah Diniyah means Ummah of Muslims, believers, but Ummah Siyasiyah, which refers to this Mithaq Medina that includes the Jews. That is Ummah Siyasiyah, political Ummah for multicultural societies. And in the context of Lebanon, it was a multicultural society. Sunnis, Shias, and the Christians. So he included Christians to be, according to his point of view, his definition, his understanding, his perception, Ummah Lubnaniyah included the Shia, the Sunni, the Christians, and maybe other languages, other people, other beliefs, for example. So this is very interesting, that Ummah was used in different contexts and did not exclude other religions, apparently. Of course, there is a lot of scholarship related to this point of view, and people have criticized this point of view, but this point of view does exist. And we see that Ummah is sometimes used by the Arab people also for a nation. Al-Ummatul Misriyah. The Egyptians say, Al-Ummatul Misriyah, the Egyptian Ummah. In some texts, we find the phrase, Al-Ummatul Iraqiyah, the Iraqi Ummah. They use it interchangeably and synonymously with nation or millah. So it means that Ummah changes its meanings from context to context, apparently. And also when we look at the Islamic scholarship and the Quran and the tafsir of Quran, we learn that there is not one Ummah. There are several Ummam or Ummah. And let me explain this point to you and unfold this. I recited a verse in the opening sermon, verse number 92 of Suratul Anbiya, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna hadihi ummatukum ummatan wahidatan wa ana rabbukum fa'budun. Indeed, this is your ummah, one ummah, and I am your Rabb, so worship me. Now, many scholars and mufassirin and exegetes say that this verse means you Muslims are one ummah, ummah wahida. You Muslims are one ummah, ummah wahida. But Allama Tabatabai in his landmark work Tafsirul Mizan, which is the best tafsir, or at least one of the best tafsir in the history of Islam, he writes that here Ummah Wahidah does not refer to Muslims. It refers to all human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, according to the Allama, that you all human beings are one Ummah, one brotherhood, one family, and I am your Rabb, so worship me alone. Worship one God. According to the Allama, it's one Ummah. Ummah Insaniyah, if I may say. Ummah, Al-Ummatul Insaniyah. And it is the same Ummah that the Amirul Mu'mineen refers to when he says to Malik al-Ashtar that people are of two kinds. Either they are your brothers in faith, or نَظِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ, or they are just like you in creation. That's what is the real translation. Not equal in humanity. That has been changed a bit, although it gives a similar meaning. Just like نَظِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ. They are just like you, human beings in creation. He is talking about Al-Ummatul Insaniyah. So that is the largest circle. The largest circle. There are 4 concentric circles of 4 ummah. 4 that I'm going to unfold for you. The first, the largest circle is the ummah, means all humanity. All humanity. Now, the second concentric circle, and that is what I call al-ummatul Ibrahimiyya. That is the people of the Abrahamic faiths. Because we have common faith. Remember the definition of ummah? A group of people with some common goal, common faith, common belief. People of Abrahamic faith have common sets of values, ethical values, belief in one God. So that is another concentric circle. The outermost circle, all human beings. Another circle, Abrahamic faiths. And then we have al-ummatul Islamiyya, or ummah Muslimah. Then we have the ummah of Muslims, the third concentric circle. And then the fourth concentric circle is the ummah of the Shia. Because we have one particular goal also, and our goal is the Imam of our times. It's absolutely fine to say that there are 4 concentric circles. And I was having this mubahatha with one of my teachers. And he said it's perfectly, because one of the narration tells us that one man came to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And he said that I believe in your wilayah. I become Shia. The Imam said, good. Then he said, now I have become a Muslim. The Imam said, no. You were Muslim before. Now you have become a mu'min. You were before. Then the Imam explained, giving a metaphor. You were before in Masjidul Haram. Now you have entered the Kaaba. That is the innermost circle of the 4 concentric circles. That is. But then the question is, now we understand that there are these 4 ummahs. We, of course, belong to the humanity. We belong to the Abrahamic faith. We belong to the ummah of Muslims, our brothers and sisters. And then we also have our own identity or tashakhus as Shia Muslims. Now the question is, the third question. I know the time is running fast. We have limited time, but this is important to discuss. Now we are concerned with the Muslim Ummah. Let's, at the moment, forget about the outer 2 circles and the innermost circle. Now we want to limit our discussion to the Muslim Ummah, the Ummah. That is how we perceive it to be. And this is what this lecture is about. Now, what about nation state and the Ummah? Are the 2 mutually exclusive? Or the 2 are friends, or exacerbate each other, reinforce each other? Well, with the traditional understanding of nation state and nationalism associated with it, as I said earlier, nation state and Ummah do not go hand in hand. They can't. And there have been Muslim scholars, thinkers, philosophers who have severely condemned nation state or watan. They use the word watan, which is also an Arabic word. Watan refers to a nation state. And one of those people is Iqbal-e-Lahori. Who is Iqbal-e-Lahori? In Iran, they call him Iqbal-e-Lahori. And in the Indian subcontinent, in India and Pakistan, is known as Allama Iqbal, a great Muslim thinker, philosopher, writer, who's supposed to be the key architect of Pakistan, national poet of Pakistan, highly revered in Iran as Iqbal-e-Lahori because he had a lot of work in Persian, and also revered in India. So let me spend a few minutes on his thought and how he looks at nation state and how his point of view changed along his journey. This is also very important to understand in this context. So Iqbal al-Lahori or Allama Iqbal, in the early 20th century, around 1900 or so, he believed in Indian nationalism. He believed in getting freedom, independence from the British for the whole of India. And he praised India as his watan, as his country, as his nation. He praised India daily, which in Hindustan and India, they still sing his poems that he did not really adhere to later on. They still sing his poems about Hindustan and Sare Jahan se Acha Hindustan Hamara, which means that our India is better than the whole world, superior to the whole world. And he says that the Egyptian and the Greek and the Romans, they've all disappeared. And still our name is, we are still there and we are there and we are a great civilization. And then he talks about the mountains and the deserts and the jungles of India, the land of Hindustan. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, everyone together. This is what he believed in. But then around 1905, 1908, 1910 or so, he changed his point of view. He took a radical shift from that point of view. And then he started to condemn nation state. And that is when he said, Lord Maghrib on Sarapa Makrufan. He says that West is complete, Lord Maghrib, Lord of the West, is complete deception. Complete deception. Why? He says that he has taught Ahle Deen Ra Dad Ta'aleem Watan. Because he has taught the religious people about nation state. So he had this radical shift. He says that religious people are now talking about a nation state and watan. And he says that on befikre markazo, he says that the Western, they are talking about centralization while you are disunited. You are disunited. And then he says, forget about your independent identities. Beguzar az Shamo, Palestino, Iraq. An be fikre markazo to dar nefaq. Beguzar az Shamo, Palestino, Iraq. Do not be disunited on the basis of your national identities like Syria, Palestine, and Iraq. These kind of things. And then he said in Urdu something very interesting. इन ताज़ा खुदाओं में बड़ा सबसे वतन है जो इसका पैराहन है वो मजहब का कफन है. And let me translate it for you. He said that out of all these latest gods, the greatest of them all is watan, nation state. What is the shirt or cloak of it, nation state? His shroud of religion, kafan. What does that mean? The two cannot go hand in hand. He was so much against it, so much against nation state. And then he started talking about एक हो मुस्लिम हरम की पासबानी के लिए नील के साहिल से लेकर ताब खाके काशगर. He said all the Muslims should unite. He started talking about pan-Islamic thought. He said all Muslims should unite all the way from the banks of River Nile to Kashgar in China. But apparently, this thought of his did not last for too long because he returned again to nation state. He wanted a nation state for Muslims of India. Because he can't operate in vacuum. He can't operate in vacuum. So he then had another shift from nationalism, Indian nationalism, to pan-Islamic thought, to Muslim nationalism. He said, it's okay if you have a nation state as long as it is a Muslim nation state for Muslims, by Muslims, but keep the, and as I interpret it, but keep the spirit of pan-Islamism alive. Probably he would have said that. Because no one can operate in a vacuum. You have to have a nation state, and here we are today. Nation states of Muslims, 56 or so. And the pity is that many of them fight one another and have deeply racist and nationalistic ideas. That is one of the great challenges when it comes to the Muslim world. I'll talk more about what are our responsibilities, because we don't live in those countries. We are based here, although we have close ties with those countries. I'll talk about those things in the next lecture, inshallah, in more depth. But this is one of the challenges. And I would like to ask you one question here. In your point of view, after having understood to a certain degree the nation state, watan, ummah, and the history, the brief history of the two, what do you think is the greatest challenge that the ummah, the Muslims of the world, face today? What is the greatest challenge in your point of view? Sorry? Divided. Divided on the basis of everything. Languages, ethnicity. You can't defend. So this is, I want you and urge you to think about it, because as I said, today's time is pretty much over. I still want to spend a few minutes on this before I go to history and eulogy. But I want you to think about it so that when we meet again, inshallah, next Thursday, which is going to be more interactive, we can have a more in-depth discussion around it. Because I have certain ideas, a list of challenges that we face as ummah. But here, getting back to so think about it, and when you come the next Thursday, inshallah, hopefully, I hope that all of you will come again after today's experience and not disappear, and bring more of your friends with you also, inshallah. But getting back to one question I said I wanted to address, the place of Shia Muslims in the ummah. Because we belong to the ummah, we say we belong to the Muslim ummah. Our hearts go out to the members of the ummah that are oppressed in different parts of the world. Whether they are our Sunni Muslim brothers and sisters in Myanmar and Rohingya Muslims, whether they are our brothers in China, Uyghur Muslims, or whether they are brothers and sisters in Palestine or any other part of the world, our heart hearkens for them, our heart goes out to them. We shed tears for them. Believe me, there are Shia Muslims, brothers and sisters, who feel guilty about celebrating birthdays and eating good food in these days because of the atrocity that is taking place in the Middle East, the massacre. Shia Muslims care so much about the ummah, always. But the pity is that the ummah does not always reciprocate. And some of the members of the ummah do not even consider us part of the ummah. I'll talk about it more in depth in the next lecture, inshallah. So some of our brothers and sisters say, they don't care about us. You keep saying Palestine, Palestine. They don't even consider you Muslim, mate. What are you talking about? Are you champion of the ummah? The ummah doesn't care about you. So you should not care about the ummah either. So I would say to them, look up to our role models. Sayyidus Sajidin. After he had lost everything, how they treated the Ahlul Bayt in Karbala, the Umayyads, how they treated the Ahlul Bayt. Even then, Sayyidus Sajidin prayed for the armies of Muslims defending the borders of the Islamic lands. Who were those soldiers? Shi'an of Ali? But protecting and defending the Muslim people. Because apparently since the very beginning, there has been a big gap between the Muslim rulers and the Muslim people. You can't blame innocent Muslim people for all the atrocities that the Umayyads or the Abbasids committed. You can't do that. And this is a topic in itself, and a lot of scholarship has been produced on this dua of Imam al-Sajjad that is in Sahifat al-Sajjadiyah. Why did he pray for those soldiers? And the answer is, they were defending the Muslims' land and the innocent Muslim people. And you are telling me that because some people have a misconception about us, about our beliefs and our practices, because they haven't been educated about us, and we are equally muqassir, responsible for that, because some of our practices are so bad and so shameful and embarrassing that when someone looks at them, after that, they don't want to take the effort to learn about us. They say these people have nothing to do with Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you are telling me that we should isolate ourselves from the Ummah just because a vast majority of Muslims still do not know about us. No. No. This is not the right way. Always, umurul muslimin. The hadith says, the one who wakes up in the morning and does not care about the affairs of Muslims, umur muslimin, is not from among us. Did not say umur Shia, umur mu'minin. Didn't. Always be concerned with the Ummah. Always be concerned with the Ummah. Although the question is whether that Ummah that we perceive it to be really exists or not. Looking at the behavior of the Muslim governments, Muslim leaders, this is what I'll talk about in the next lecture, inshallah. But now getting back to the history, just 5 minutes. As I said, in the end, I was going to take a critical look at the early Islamic history. The root cause of all the problems the Ummah faces today. The killing of the children in Palestine, to the atrocities committed against the Rohingya Muslims, to the Uyghur Muslims, to the Shia Muslims in Afghanistan, to the Shia Muslims in Pakistan, and all the bloodshed and war the whole Ummah Insaniyah faces, the Ummah of human beings faces, is rooted in one calamity. One calamity. A fateful day. A fateful Monday. Yawmul Ithnain. What is Yawmul Ithnain? Someone came to Imam Reza alayhi salam and he said that people become happy on the day of Ashura and so on and so forth. And Imam Reza alayhi salam in reply said, Wallah ma usiba alu Muhammadin illa fi yawmil ithnain. No calamity befalls al Muhammad, but it is because of Yawmul Ithnain, because of Monday. Which Monday? A fateful Monday, Saqifa. It says no calamity befalls. No calamity befalls, but because of that. When the train of Islam was detracked, forever, pretty much forever, the Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib got, alayhi salam, got those 4 years. And that's it. Other than, in 1400 years of Islam's history, there have been only 14 years when there was Ummah. 10 years of the Holy Prophet, and 4 years of Ali. 14 out of 1400. All calamities are rooted in that. In that. And this was the mainstream belief in the first 2-3 centuries. Every Shia knew this Yawm al-Ithnain. Wallah ma usiba alu Muhammadin illa fi Yawm al-Ithnain. It is said that when Imam Hadi alayhi salam's funeral was being taken through the streets of Samarra, there was one female servant of his household. And she was walking in that funeral and lamenting and saying out loud, Wallahi, Wallah ma usiba alu Muhammadin illa fi yawm al-ithnain. Even in the funeral of Imam Hadi, saying even this martyrdom of Imam Hadi is because of that fateful Monday. And you know, another holy personality referred to that fateful Monday in the midst of calamity. In the midst of a big calamity. Sayyida Zainab salamullahi alayha. Sayyida Zainab salamullahi alayha after Ashura, when she stood there in Maqtalgah, on the battlefield, and she complained to the Holy Prophet, Wa Muhammadah, Hada Husaynun Murammalun bid-dima. When she said that, this is your Hussein, drenched in blood, then she said something. Bi abi al-atushan hatta mada. May my father be sacrificed for the one who died in a state of thirst, who was thirsty until he passed away. And then she said something remarkable in that moment, something deep. Then she said, بأبي من أضحى عسكره في يوم الاثنين نهبا. May my father be sacrificed for the one whose army was destroyed on that fateful Monday. On that fateful Monday. Ayatollah Gharavi Isfahani says in his poetry, referring to Ali al-Asghar, Sahmun Rama min janib as-Saqifa. An arrow came towards that baby from Saqifa. My brothers and sisters, never forget Saqifa, Yawm al-Ithnain. Sayyida Zainab, after Ashura, just a couple of sentences of Masa'ib. Just a couple. Majlis is over. Is over. But for the marhum, for whose Isal Sawab, Tarhim, we have organized this majlis, and it's Thursday night. Just listen to these, a couple of sentences of Masa'ib, my brothers and sisters. Majlis is over. When Sayyida Zainab, Kulthum, Atika, Fatima, Rubab, and other daughters of the Holy Prophet, they were all brought to Kufa with the children, innocent children of Karbala. Innocent children. You know what happened? The narrator says, صار أهل الكوفة يناولون الأطفال الذين على محامل. And then what did he say? He says that Ahlul Kufa came. Ahlul Kufa came. And then they started throwing بعض التمر والخبز والجوز. They started throwing bread, date, and walnuts towards the children of the Holy Prophet. Sadaqah, eat. Sadaqah, this is pity. We pity you, O children. They started showing pity for the children of the Ahlul Bayt, innocent children of Karbala. And in all their innocence, some of them grabbed those walnuts and dates and bread and put it into their mouths. At that moment, Sayyida Kulthum said, Ya Ahl al-Kufa, Inna as-sadaqata alayna haramun. Indeed, sadaqah is haram upon us. Then she reached out to those children and took that bread and dates and walnuts out of the mouths of those children. And among those children, there was one little girl, only four, Ruqayya. And her mother was also among those women who had just lost two of the most valuable things she had. Just two things. Her beloved Hussein and Ali al-Asghar. God knows how this mother survived. God knows how this mother survived. It is written in the books of Maqtal when Ali al-Asghar was martyred. The majlis is over. Last sentence after that. Majlis is over. When Ali al-Asghar was martyred, Imam Hussein did not have the heart to take his body to the tents. He did not, because perhaps, you know what would have happened? Because perhaps Robab would have died then and there. Robab would have died then and there. Allah la'natullahi ala al-qawmi al-zalimin. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعن أعدائهم أجمعين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
توجه زيارة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وسيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. زيارة وارث. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم سفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن، بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زيارة علي الأكبر. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. زيارة شهداء كربلاء. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأوداءه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله، بأبي أنتم وأمي، طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم، وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. زيارة أبو الفضل العباس. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقومهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك في نعم الأخ المواسي، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. في نعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر، والأخ الدافع عن أخيه، المجيب إلى طاعة ربه، الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل، وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليكم يا ساداتي وموالي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على التسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين، علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، ومحمد بن علي الباقر، وجعفر بن محمد الصادق، وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم، وعلي بن موسى الرضا، ومحمد بن علي التقي الجواد، وعلي بن محمد النقي الهادي، وحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن، يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك، وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من عوانك وأنصارك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.